Welcome to your Popsugar Reading Challenge page. To set your own page up, it's as simple as going up to where it says duplicate up here, clicking on it, and then either logging in if you're already using Notion, or clicking on sign up, and then following through the sign up instructions if you're not already using Notion. Once you duplicate it, you'll end up at a page like this. I'm just going to type demo so that I know this is a different page to the template that I've created. At the top here are the instructions for how to duplicate the page, and then it shows you that you'll be taken to your very own version of the page like this. You can do what you like here. If you want to share it with other people, you can go up to this share here and you can share that with individuals or to the web if you like. But if you don't, everything here remains yours and remains private. Here it says books are marked as finished when you set the date you finished reading them. Challenges linked to finished books are then recognized as completed too. Then you can go ahead and delete these instructions. So just to make sure this is really clear, we're going to mark a book as finished. So we're going to go down to waiting. Let's just choose this book here. I'm going to set a start date for the 1st of January, and I'm going to set a finished reading on today. Then if we go back here, we can see that in the progress we have got one of the challenges completed because the book I finished reading was a challenge. And in my books finished in 2021, we can see the book that I just finished. And that is the only way to finish a book, is by setting the finish date, and that finish date needs to be on today or before today. So once you're familiar with this and you've got it right, you can then go ahead and delete this. Now let's just have a quick look at what we've got here. This is how to use all of the amazing stuff. Click the triangle, which is this little triangle here. That makes this toggle block expand out so you can see all of these areas where you can learn how to use this page. And you'll see that after using Notion in general, there are 4 different sections. These 4 different sections correlate with the tables on the page. So they are my progress, my challenges, my books, and my authors. So if we go have a look, this is my progress, then there's my challenges, and there's my books, then here's my authors. Now within each of these tables, there's different views. So under my challenges, there's these different views here called finished in 2021, book setup and selection, and so on. And this is information about those views. To see a view, all you do is go to that table, click on the options for the different views, and click on the view that you want. So book setup and selection, you just click on it, and then you can see the book setup and selection. These views are views of the information that sits in the My Challenges table, but the views rearrange what you can see. They filter it and they sort it so as that you can achieve what you want in the different views. So in book setup and selection, you can see where you've got books here for each of the challenges, or when there's an empty field here, you know that there are no books for this challenge. Different views enable you to do different things. If you only wanted to see challenges that don't have any books in them, you go to this one here. And that just lists off all the challenges that don't have a book associated with them. So to go through these, my progress is very simple. There's a little bit about what this bar does, but it's obvious enough. My challenges, the first view, finished in 2021, is a list of the challenges that you've finished in 2021, and they're listed in the order that Popsugar lists them. The next view, book setup and selection, is the one you'll be using to start setting up how you use this page. and gives you instructions on that. This view, no books for this challenge, simply shows you the list of challenges that don't have a book associated with them yet. And full table is often there as a view, but you won't likely use it unless you're really getting in and exploring what else Notion can do for you and setting up your own views and things like that. So let's get started and assume that you want to add a book to your challenges. So book setup and selection is a good way to go. Under book setup and selection, there's instructions for how to add books. It's fairly straightforward, and I'm going to show you that now. So we go down to challenges, and under challenges, we'll choose the view, book setup and selection, and then we'll choose a field that is empty. So where a main character works at your current dream job, we'll click over here, and there is no book there at the moment, but we want to add one in here. So I'm going to go over to Goodreads and find a book. Here I've got chocolate taster as my profession, and fortunately for me, there's only one book that came up. So it makes it easy to choose. If I go to that, I'm going to simply copy the title, and then I'll paste the title in here. Now, because that book doesn't actually exist in my list, it comes up, create a new page, so I'll click on that. And now, because it's got that red cross there, it means that it's actually entered into that field. And there's my book. Adding it is as simple as that. If there was a book in your list that you really don't want to read, it's just been added there by the Popsugar people, you can click on there, and then by clicking on that X, you don't delete the book, you simply remove its association with that challenge. So if I click on the X here, that book has disappeared from association with this challenge. That's all you need to do to add a book to a challenge. But if you want to, you can then go into that book simply by clicking on it, like so. Now in here, you can add other stuff. Let's say you want to add the author. We'll go back over to here, copy that author. And then the same thing, we just paste that in there, see if we already have it, which in this case we don't. Click on it. Now you've associated an author with it. You can also select what genre it is. You can select whether it's your first, second, or backup choice. In this case, it's the only book, but I'm going to make it first. So as we know, that comes up in that top of that list. Then if you've already started reading it, you can set the date that you started reading it. If you haven't, that's okay. You can also schedule these dates into the future. So if you want to start reading this on the 29th of January, you can schedule it. You can even schedule when you want to finish it. So we want to finish it by the end of February. And that'll still be marked as waiting as the book status. And this is because you can't have finished it yet because it's in the future. But let's say that we started it on the 1st. Then we'll see that the book status is now started, but it's not finished. If we had marked finish date as the 3rd, say, that book will also be marked as finished. You can also set the book's location, whether it's to borrow or to buy or to return. I'm going to say this one's to return, and I'm going to return it to Peter, but Peter's not in that list, so we'll just type Peter. Then we'll click on Create Peter. Now, I don't know a Jack or a Mary, so I'll never have to return books to them, so I can just delete those. Now I've got a book to return to Peter. You can also add a book cover if you like, simply by saving the picture. So this picture here, large cover, save image as, save that. Now, if we go back here, we go click on book cover, we're going to upload a file. It's already selected my latest one. Click open. That uploads the image of my book cover for me. Once you've read it, you can rate the plot. Oh yeah, give it 4 stars. And how well the characters are created. These are just randomly clicked because I haven't even read the book. So this is just giving you an example of what it can look like. That was the writing quality. And here, the impact or memory that had. I'm going to give that a 5. That's the challenge it's associated with. There are other options down here, but you generally won't need to look at those. But here you can see that it's calculated an average rating for the book as 3.75. It's taken 3 days to read. It was finished in 2021. And some of these are just flags to help make sure that Notion does what you want it to do. So you can have a look at those if you want to, but you generally won't need to be in this area, so we can hide that. To close this, you can just click away. If you wanted to open this up as a page, you can open it up like so. Not a lot of use in this case, but it can be useful when you're navigating around deeper in there, say looking at the authors and doing things and jumping back out. So go back to where we were. You can also add books simply by adding a book down here. And if you're doing that, let's say it's going to be delete me book, because I'm not actually adding a book at the moment, and you wanted to then associate that with the challenge, you just go up here and then you either select the challenge. Note that not all the challenges will show up in here because unfortunately that's the way Notion works, but you can just search for the challenge that you're after. So say you're searching for a challenge and it had the word mineral in there, then you need to click on it, like so. And now you've got your new book associated with the new challenge. And again, you can go through and fill out the information that you wanted there. This here is just an index, which makes it easy to jump between different areas of this page. So you want to jump to my challenges, you click up there. If you want to jump down to my books, you click down there. Now, let's say that you've added your books, but you want to sort them into which ones are the ones you want to read for the challenge and which ones are the ones that you're using as a backup book in case you're not enjoying the first book or something like that. Let's just pick a challenge. So a book that was published anonymously. What we're going to do is under my books, we're going to go to Book Chooser here. And then we're going to change the filter to anonymous. Book that was published anonymously. Now, I've actually read Go Ask Alice, so I'm going to drag that over to backup. Frankenstein, maybe, not sure. Primary Colors, a novel of politics. That's probably also second choice, maybe. Arabian Nights. Okay, that could be a bit of fun. So I'll make that my first choice. And Diary of an Oxygen Thief doesn't sound very happy to me. So I'm going to drop that over there to backup. So I've got first choice, I've got 2 second choices and a backup. I think I'll move Primary Colors over to backup as well. Notice when I'm doing this, there's a little blue line that appears at my destination. If you don't get that blue line showing, it might be because you're outside the area of the table, which will actually drag the book completely out of where you want it to be, and you really can just drag it anywhere. So be careful that you don't drag the book right out of your table, because then it will not be in that database anymore. Make sure you see the little blue line showing the destination for where you're going to drop it. Once you've done that, you've got a first choice and a second choice book. You can then go to the next challenge and work out what your choices are for that as well. You'll see how that works by going to Visual Bookshelf Challenge Weighting and first choice books show first, then your second choice books, and then after your second choice books it shows you your backup books, and then there's 50 more books or more down here, and you can see all the books that haven't even been set as first, second or backup. The point of doing this is you then get a visual bookshelf showing you the books that you want to read next, and you don't have to then go past a whole lot of books which you weren't that interested in, keep looking at them going, oh, I've already decided I don't want to read that. Straight away you can go to the books that you're most interested in reading, and these ones are that are still waiting. So if you finish them, then they don't turn up. It also only shows books for challenges that haven't been completed yet. So once you complete a challenge, even if you had 2 first choices for that challenge, that other first choice will disappear once that challenge is completed. So it's not really a book reading list for the sake of reading books, it's a book reading list for the sake of completing your challenge. Now if we have a look at my books, we've already looked at Visual Bookshelf and how that's working for us. Visual Bookshelf for what you've started. We'll change it to this one over here. What you've started simply shows books that you've started. If we click on it, you can see it's got a started date, 1st of January, but it doesn't have a finished reading. If we did add a finished reading date for 2nd of January, then you can see it's no longer in your started books. It'll be in your books that are finished. So we'll just go and have a look at books finished in 2021. And we can see we've got the 3 books there. Now we'll have a look at the Manage Reading view. There's plenty of instructions there, and I recommend you read through them in case you don't quite understand or don't remember what we talk about here. But let's just jump straight down to the view. So go to Manage Reading. Here, these are the same books, but shown in a different format. We've got the titles here, and they're listed in order of their status. So the ones that are started come first, then the weighting. If you were to expand that down, you would then see the ones that were read and abandoned and other things like that. You can add a finish date here if you want to when you finish your book. If you finish your book not because you got to the end of it, but because you don't want to read it anymore or something like that, you can either mark it as paused or abandoned. So if you pause a book because you don't want to keep going back to it, but you're not sure if, you might come back to it later, you're just reading something else at the moment, you can mark it as paused. And abandoned is useful because once you abandon something, it doesn't show up in the other lists where you're looking at things. So let's say we're going to mark this one as abandoned. Then it moves it out of the waiting area and drops it right down the bottom to abandoned. With these tags here, you need to be careful not to change the text in them because the text in these tags is actually used in some formulas. You can see what challenge each book is associated with. You can change that challenge or you can add other challenges through there. Now let's have a look at the timeline view. This reading timeline shows you when you started a book and when you finished a book and so on. You can drag the end around to say when you finished it. You can drag the start around to say when you started it. But this is more just to get a visual summary of what you've been reading and when you've been reading it. So by the end of the year, hopefully you'll see a long diagonal of books going from left over to right as you've read through all of these books. There are many other views here. The genres enables you to select different genres. So you can drag a book over into any one of your genres. If you have too many genres, this gets hard to work with because it goes all the way down to here and then it adds more and it keeps adding more, which is frustrating. And then you can't drag across to see the right. So I've got this little mark here, open as page to use. So to do that, we'll click here, we'll click open as page. You'll see when it opens as page, you've got the full width. So I'll add another group, call it horror, and then I'll add another group and call it steampunk. And then you can see that I can't see over to the right, but I can use the slider down the bottom. And it's much easier to navigate, even though you might have many more books. That scroll bar at the bottom enables you to scroll bar around and see what's there. Now, to add a book to a genre, simply drag it there. Unfortunately, you can only have a single genre doing it in this method. If you want to add to more than one genre, say it's pulp sci-fi, you need to open the book, click on it, and click on sci-fi. To get back to your page, simply go to the cookie trial at the top here and click the Popsugar reading page and it'll take you back to where you were. So let's go back down to books. There's the genre view. You've also got similar views like that for books to return or books to borrow. I haven't listed any there at the moment. These views are very handy because if you're going to go to the library and you just want a list of all the books you want to borrow, or you're going out and you want to see who you've got to return books to, you can just get that list ready to go. You might be buying other books and want to see what else you want to buy. Just have a look at your books to buy list. All of these are based on the information you have with those books. So let's go to list all my books. Say I wanted to buy a spool of thread, I click on it, and then location, I just click to buy. Now if I go to my list of books to buy, see that a spool of blue thread is there. Then you've got the books that you finished in 2021 and full book list and the full table view. Under the My Authors, there's the favorite authors view. There's also the most read authors, all the authors that you've read, all your authors, and the full table. The favorite authors view shows books that have an average rating that is greater than 4. If you're not getting enough books in your favorite authors view, then you could change that to a lower rating. If there's too many, you can change that to a higher rating. You can put in a decimal, and that's perfectly fine because the average ratings are often as a decimal. But I've guessed 4 is probably a decent number as we get started. So a spool of blue thread, I'm going to rate the plot and the other qualities of the book all as 5 to give it an average rating of 5 stars. And now you would expect it to show up under favorite authors, but it hasn't because it's doing background calculations. I'm going to just refresh the page. Now if we go under favorite authors, we can see it shows Anne Tyler there. If we click on Anne Tyler, we can see that her average rating is 5 and we've only got one book there that's been rated. Most read authors will show you a list of the authors whose books you've read the most of. This is based on a read count that's over 1, and then it is sorted by the number of books that you've read with the most at the top and then going down. If they've got the same number of books read, then the title is the sorting order. And then it shows all authors and a full table. This is plenty to get you started. It shows you your progress throughout the year. As you get past your 40 books, it'll show you stars there for the extra challenges that you complete. It's got all of your challenges, all of your books and your authors, and a little bit about why I created all of this. So do enjoy using it. If you want to get in contact with me, go through my webpage and ask me any questions. Oh, one last thing. If you like taking notes while you read or something like that, or you want to add notes about your book, so for example, the spool of thread here, you can go down and you can put notes in here. But I've also added this about this fiction book here. This is a button. When you click on it, it opens up a whole lot of headings and thought prompts so that you can fill them in and capture what you thought about the book after you've read it, and go through and note down the impact the book might have had on you or what you got from reading that book. And that'll make it easier for you to remember what made that book special for you. I got these questions from this website here and then modified them to make them more relevant. So I do hope you enjoy using this tool, and I'm looking forward to hearing what feedback you've got to offer. Enjoy your Popsugar challenge for 2021.